All right, guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, we're going to get started here. Thanks for your patience. So we'll do this to get going. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Our country is of the sweet land of
liberty. Oops.
I sing, land where my fathers died, land of thy pilgrims bright. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Thank you. You guys may be seated. Do I have a volunteer for an invocation, a motivational phrase, or any sort of anecdotal piece for our enjoyment? Okay, so I have a great quote from Warren Buffett. He famously said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and only 5 minutes to ruin it." If you think about that, you'll do everything differently. So those are your words of wisdom for today. We have a couple of guests. I'll start with Chuck Arnold. Chuck, thanks for being here. Chuck is the Urban Renewal Program Manager. Is that
sure? Sounds good.
Something like that? For the City of Redmond. I don't know the official title, so correct me if I'm wrong. We also have Julie Olson here today. She's with Rise Above Realty. It's serendipitous that she's here today because she and Chuck and I we all met in Leadership Redmond back in 2016. So 6 years ago now, right? Also Amanda Kierkegaard here from Century 21. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you. We'll dive into announcements. We still have some See's candy left. We are going to do a pop-up sale on Valentine's Day if there's anything left at the Spokesman Suites where we sold our candy all winter long. I want to remind you all to order your lunches at Juniper ahead of time. Thanks for doing that. It sounds like she didn't, Marta may have missed an email or two. So I think that's the food coming out here is the last of that. Reminder to get your service hours into Carl anytime you guys are out and about in the community volunteering and giving away your time. Please let Carl know because he reports that to Kiwanis International. This week we only have one birthday to celebrate. Dave Schlufferbeer. His birthday is tomorrow, and I don't know how old he's turning, but he's heading to Mexico this weekend, I believe. So he's excited about it, I'm sure, yeah. The only volunteer opportunity that I have right now, so if you guys have other things, raise your hand, but is the Kiwanis Food Project. The collection day next Saturday, the 29th. And Earl and maybe Roland will be there at Centennial to collect these blue bags from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And if you cannot make it during that 1 hour window, Roland or Earl will collect it from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a sack of these by the door at the end of the meeting, so I'll give you one.
So where do we go at Centennial Park? Just look for you.
Just a little kiosk there. Yeah.
Oh, there's a kiosk.
There are a bunch of kiosks.
Yeah.
So it's at the corner of
Corner of,
7th Street and
7th and Evergreen, usually, right in the corner.
Perfect.
Between 10 and 11 on Saturday the 29th.
Any other announcements, Dan?
So we didn't, Jericho Table where we serve once a month, usually the first Friday. We didn't have an assignment for January, but I've got the schedule for the rest of the year. I shared it with Carl. Hopefully he can get it in the newsletter. February 4th is our next assignment. I've got one person already. I could use one or two more people interested in February 4th. I got Amber, I see up there. Thank you, Amber. And John, okay, we got February 4th covered. March 4th, be thinking about it. I'll be out of town, but I'll get a message through one of you to recruit people for that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Any other announcements? Anybody on the screen? Oh, I'm sorry, Dawn, I didn't announce you were here. We have another guest. Thanks, Dawn, for coming back. Good to see you. But any other announcements before we move on? Okay. We'll move into 50-50. You know what 50-50 is for the, well,
Would you mind pulling a ticket?
Oh, sure.
I can read the last 3 digits.
Last 3 digits.
Last 3, 703.
Here comes Jack.
4, 5, and 6.
Been pretty close.
John, it might be you. Mr. Duff.
703.
You got it.
That's me.
Nice.
Okay.
All right.
So John is going to run around and collect happy dollars. Now, what happy dollars are for you guests in the room are anytime you're thankful or excited or happy about something, you can put $1 into the bucket there and share that item with us. Tell us what you're grateful for, what you're happy about. Not a requirement, but a lot of people participate. And if not this week, they will next week or whatever it is. And it's actually a really fun thing that we do as a club. So, John, why don't you show us how it's done?
Okay, well, I'll start with some dollars. I'm happy for the men's basketball team. They beat 2 top-ranked team, 2 number 5 ranked teams in this country with UCLA and USC. And then the women knocked off national champion Arizona and UConn. So pretty good weekend for Oregon. So you want to start?
I've got 2 happy dollars, one for Julie and one for Amanda. I think you guys should be there.
You're not happy about the Ducks win?
No.
You're happy.
I'm happy about the Beaver women win
Oh, that,
on Monday. It beat Colorado, who hadn't lost. They were at 22, and then the Beaver wrestling men shut out Little Rock, Arkansas. Won every single match. It's nice to see them.
That's scary. So I got a happy dollar. Oscar, my 4-month-old grandson, spent this past weekend with me, and I got to change some bad diapers. It still made me really happy. And I got a happy dollar. Tara and I are headed to Arizona to visit her mom. We're leaving later in the weekend or Monday or sometime, and be gone for several weeks.
Oscar, that's a great name.
Oh, he's a good dude.
Nicole, you look like you're digging for
You know,
cash.
well, I'm an old 49er fan, so there you go.
Yeah, I'm happy for the Rams game on Monday. That was great to see. Hopefully they can take Tampa Bay out this weekend. But with Brady there, we'll see. And very excited for a pig hunting trip I'm going on tomorrow down in California. So that'll be fun. Help them get rid of some feral pigs.
Here. Chris Ritchie?
Happy dollar for all you Ducks and Beavers to know what a Louisville Cardinal looks like.
Yeah, happy or reiterate what the Oregon men and women basketball team has done. And we got I have our trip planned for most of the month of March to 2 of the Hawaiian Islands.
All right. Mr. Arnold?
Yes, I've got 2. First one is for my wife who just had surgery back in mid-December, and I'm happy that I was able to rise to the challenge of being a caregiver. For any of you that have been caregivers, that's quite a hill for some of us, and for me at least, but it worked out well. And I'm also happy my youngest son is on the Summit High basketball team. They're making a run for the state title. They're 4th in the state. They're the only 6A team left in the state of 53 teams that's undefeated. That's awesome. And they're rocking it. So
Very cool.
awesome. Happy for that. Thank you.
Very good.
Oh, there you found one.
They're a happy dollar. My wife's out of a hospital.
Hey,
Oh, that's
There you
good.
go.
All right.
that's extremely happy. Okay, anybody up on the screen happy today? Amber.
I'll do 10, not 10 things, but I'll put 10 in. I'm super excited the 49ers won, obviously. Not so excited to see Green Bay, but oh well, one step at a time. And then we had great roads all the way down to California and back, much better than at Christmas time. My husband's dog did not eat any of my truck, which was a plus. And I got to celebrate my daughter's bridal shower with her, and that was pretty amazing.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah,
Hannah.
yes. Dave, can you screen share? Thank you. Okay, here's the flyer that Nicole Gee made for our Valentine fundraiser, which is going to be at the Spokesman Suites for the one day. And Josh and Nicole have candy now, if you want to contact them about getting some. And I'm happy because my main responsibility for it is so wonderfully being taken over by Josh and Michelle and Nicole and other people, and I want to thank them very much. And I'll put in $10. Thank you.
That almost buys you a pound of chocolate. Oh, yes, I do have like 120 pounds of chocolate in my office. If you guys want to come get some, that'd be awesome. I'll be this big otherwise. All right, thank you guys. Anybody else happy? John, Bruce, I see your fingers.
Yes, I'll throw in $5. I actually had a list. I was going to do this the last two meetings and I lost the list, so I'll just throw one in. My granddaughter has received a $100,000 scholarship to a college, but she asked me not to say because she has a couple more pending. That's worth $5.
Wow. Yeah, it's worth 100 grand. That's great. Congratulations. All right. Any last calls for happy dollars? Okay. Now we'll jump into the joke of the day. Chuck, I'm going to set the bar fairly low for you. Okay. Which building in New York has the most stories? The library.
Yeah.
And Tippy got it. Well done. All right.
Right about that bar.
I know. I don't want to give such a good joke that they're thinking about it through your presentation. It is what it is. All right, Chuck. Floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
Let me get the old PowerPoint working. Is it best that I stand, I guess?
Yeah, whatever is best
Whatever
for you.
works.
Yeah.
So I am Chuck Arnold. I'm Urban Renewal Program Manager and Economic Development Manager for the City of Redmond. I've been in Central Oregon for 17 years. Moved up from Los Angeles and was the Downtown Bend Business Association director for a little over a decade. I started the art walks and a lot of the festivals and the flower baskets and things that you see down there now that are annually done. And then transferred to Redmond to pursue an opportunity to help out and make a contribution to this community. I started back in 2015 and I've really enjoyed being in this community and love it here. So today I was going to just walk through and give you an update from an economic development standpoint about a couple of things happening within the city that I wanted to make you aware of, and then of course take any questions as we go. So feel free to jump in. And what are we getting here?
Chuck, can you?
Oh, I see.
Can you sit down so we can see your face? Because we're just seeing your head decapitated there.
My head's decapitated. So if I'm like this,
It's never good.
Hey, Dave. We have access to share our screen here. That way you guys can see the presentation on the TV.
Yes, you're good to go.
All right.
okay.
So yeah, go back into the Zoom and then.
Okay, one moment. We're working on the technical action. Go back into the Zoom. In the Zoom.
And then we should be able to, the green button at the bottom middle, share screen.
Right. I want to share that one.
Might take a second.
We're on there we go. Thank you for your patience, everyone. How's that?
Not yet.
Oh, decapitated. I see.
That's because you're too close to it.
I'm too close to the owl.
Oh, yeah,
If you sit down, you might work. It might work. No.
that's true. You can just pull the chair
Waiting
in
for the delay. There we go.
You're good.
Okay. So thank you again. Don't have this as direct slides because there isn't PowerPoint on this computer. So just be patient as it makes its choice about how fast it wants to page through. Today I was going to talk a little bit about population growth and development activity and urban renewal, three areas amongst the many, many areas of things going on in the city. You've heard recently about a public safety building, about other projects going on with the airport. There's a lot happening at the city. So I'm really just going to give you just a small slice today of some of the world that we deal with under my division. Starting off with population. All right, I got that right. Yeah, it's that was the number that was projected back in 2018 was, oh yeah, over the next 20 years we're going to grow by this amount of people. Oh no,
How be a lot more than that.
how are we going to manage that?
Because
And-
last year 10% population growth.
Yeah, so the numbers have been astounding, and
With the current numbers, kind of seems like 10% per year is doubling every 8 years.
7 people per day are moving to Redmond. So when you've got a community of 30-something thousand and growing at that rate, it definitely puts you in one of the top in the state. It's something that we have to be really thoughtful of. Yes, you're right. It's an astounding number, and something that at the city we have to do a lot of planning, zoning, make sure our UGB is size enough to accommodate that growth, and make sure we're having good housing stock and diversity of housing stock in order to accommodate that population. Make sure that we have enough jobs and commercial space in our core and along in our industrial areas. This is just not a smooth move as I like. So how do we manage that? We do it by getting involved with the private sector. And in one of our projects, has anyone heard about Skyline Village yet? Yeah. So for those that haven't, there was a House bill that was passed through the state that allowed a couple of cities in the state to work outside the confines of their normal UGB growth effort and annex properties that were outside of the UGB process. And Bend and Redmond were the 2 cities that were selected statewide to get to be part of this program. And the property that we're going to be working with is Skyline Village. It's 40 acres. You can see the sports complex. This is Maple, Neff going out this way. Negus, sorry. And out to the transfer station. So it's 40 acres out there. And this was made possible by the state, and Representative Jack Zika really did a lot of work. And what we've done is we've gone through a master plan process. What you'll see there eventually is kind of a standalone community with a whole bunch of different uses. We've got 2 3-story apartments, 4 plexes, townhomes, park spaces, commercial nodes. The whole 40 acres will be this community that people can kind of have choices about what's going to work for them for their economic situation. There'll be some affordable housing, some market rate units. You can see in this picture here some of the different housing types to give you a kind of look at some of these obliques, give you the sense of the scale of the site and how many units can work there. We're talking close to 500 units. Now, definitely highly encourage you some point in the future we can get John Roberts, our deputy city manager, oversees all our growth and development efforts. He can really give you a high level view about the number of units that we need to be creating in order to keep up with the amount of people moving here. It's way more than 500 per year. And I think we all know that, right? But this is just one of the projects that we're doing. This is going to be an RFP process that looks to work with a master developer who would then work with the individual developers to develop the different pieces. So say you do affordable housing townhomes and you want to do multifamily, large scale, 40 unit market rate. So there'll be a master developer that will work with those smaller developers to develop each piece in order to create that complete community. So moving a bit on to urban renewal. First of all, I wanted to just pause for a second. If there are any questions about housing or Skyline Village, feel free to jump in now and do my best to answer them.
What's the time frame on Skyline Village?
We're getting close to issuing the request for qualifications for a master developer. So we hope to have that out this year. As far as what that ends up meaning, deploying on the ground and when you start seeing something coming out of the dirt, it's definitely gonna be at least a few years, probably about 3 years until you see something coming out of the dirt at minimum.
So what's the difference between this process for this land versus the traditional process? Why is it even needed? What's different?
So there was and I'm gonna kind of try to do the best of justice I can to this. So, but I might not get this exactly right. What Salem saw and what they heard from legislators around the state was there needs to be a way to fast track for communities that needed to bring in more land in order to respond to the housing crisis. So I think that's kind of the executive summary of it. And so that this property being out there would have, we all know for those of us who've been in Oregon, UGB expansions have to happen where it's touching the piece that's touching the city, right? You can't say, I'm going to expand my UGB over here.
What's UGB stand for?
Urban growth boundary, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be acronym heavy there.
That's okay.
And if you have some of your city over here and then you have county land in between and then more city over here, that doesn't work for services. As you imagine, it needs to be contiguous and compact, which is part of the Oregon land use laws. And the idea is to keep us from sprawling like Ventura County and make it so we have a more compact, community. Any other questions on this that I can sort of try to answer?
Do you see or anticipate any other adjustments to the urban growth boundary?
I don't know the full answer to that. There's certainly, last I'd heard from our planning division is that we're kind of marching through and using up our urban growth area at the pace that we expected. So there will be an expansion when needed. I'm not sure about what the date is of that, but we were kind of on task with where we had projected a number of years ago. We have two tools, one main tool that we use in my division in urban renewal, which is tax increment financing. And what that does is urban renewal takes an area and you have, think of this area as the area where valuation in property is not rising as fast as the area around it. So you've got an area that you focus and you find that and say, well, that's by definition, although this can be debated, a more blighted condition in this area than it is in the area around because the valuations we know have not been rising. And we know if we do nothing, same thing will happen. So you can come in with an intervention of urban renewal as a tool and you say, all right, now all the properties in this area, the base, what we call frozen base, this dark blue here, the base tax dollars will still flow to the overlapping taxing districts. So say you're on the board of the Park District and you had a property that was paying $1,000 in property tax. Lucky for you, for your commercial building, and you at the Park District are getting a quarter of that. Say there's 4 other taxing districts, just for this simplified example. It's you, the Park District, the county, and the school district, and the city. And you're each getting $250 for his $1,000 that he's paying every year. That $250 over the life of the urban renewal district, that frozen base, that $1,000 still continues to flow to the Park District. So the Park District can rely on the $250. However, any growth and with the interventions that we do through projects like the bypass, like the downtown hotel, like Centennial Park, like Starbucks and Lowe's and everything that's been done in the urban renewal core starts to raise that value. And these revenues are called the increment dollars. And that's the growth in the valuation for that property. Now, he's not paying $1,000 a year anymore. He's paying $1,500 because we've done these interventions and these projects that have raised the valuation in that area. his district still gets 250. Urban Renewal is in a way like a mutual fund investor. We say, we're going to take that growth that you were supposed to get, maybe it's $50 over a few years, and multiply that out over hundreds of properties, and we're going to bond against it and invest in projects like the hotel, like Centennial Parking Lot, like all the projects that you've seen. General Duffy's is an urban renewal investment. Odom Theater, the bank building that's being renovated downtown, the Arch building, the old athletic club. We are working with every one of those. And so on different levels of loans and grants, and we'll get into that in a minute. But at the end of the project, so during the plan, this is all occurring. And at the end of the project, as your mutual fund investor, Park District, we've taken the property that he owned that he was only paying $1,000 in taxes. We made all these improvements. At the end, we're turning the increment back over to you. Now, instead of getting $250 for that property, in the case of the downtown district, we've already grown since 1995, the tax base 4 times over. So now you're getting $1,000. And sorry, you're paying $4,000 now, but your property. So that's kind of a primer on urban renewal, like a real basic way that it functions. So you see an issue, you identify projects that you think are going to move the needle and change that story, and then you execute those projects in partnership with the private sector. You know, the hotel is a great example. A lot of money went into the hotel. It was really seen as a major catalytic project. It's what the community wanted, was to see it activated again and see the building renovated. And so we put some metrics to protect the taxpayer dollars. We have a forgivable loan in there, but that's to make sure that you as hotel owner, you can't turn it into an hourly motel. It has to stay upscale. We have to have the rooftop bar for Josh. And we have to have all these elements that add to the value of downtown and have this catalytic way of causing other things to happen. And we saw it even before the hotel opened. We saw people starting to buy up property in anticipation of that traffic. We had projections of about $3 million a year of economic impact that we projected between heads and beds and daily meals served, daily spend. We know that a lot of these large projects like that can have a lot of ripple effects that are positive throughout the economy. So that's why we invest in them, but we always are very thoughtful and careful with the taxpayer dollars, like as staff and as policymakers, like they're our own dollars, and we're being thoughtful of how we're making sure that we mitigate risk. But at the same time, we have to take a little bit of risk, right? Because we've got a situation of blight or lack of investment or valuation in the downtown that we're trying to change the story on. And as you've seen in the last, particularly I think in the last 5 to 10 years, it's really started to get a lot of good momentum. So I will just go into a little bit more about the downtown district. It's just so awkward with the, oh, hey, look at that. There's a delay on this computer, so I apologize, everybody. Wow, it just paged through a couple. Okay. Hold on. La, la, la. How about them Niners? Okay. Okay, well, we're not going to go all the way back. We talked about the goals. So what I did is I hit the page down numerous times, and then it decided, like, oh, I heard your 13 key taps. I'm going 13 pages up or whatever. So in the downtown district, you've seen some of these projects. We talked about the hotel up in the medical district, up near Allen's house, across from the hospital. There's an improvement that we did in partnership with Central Oregon medical specialists that helped keep the center in that space. Their lease was ending and they were actually getting ready to leave Redmond possibly, and they were looking for the property owner to do some investment. So we did a partnership with them, and now we end up having a few tenants in there. Great investment in the building, 6,000 square foot of space added. Midtown Place, you've hopefully all seen come out of the ground. That was one of the first acquisitions that I executed on staff when I joined the City of Redmond. the vacant parcel that was just south of the old grocery outlet. And is now going to be 47 units of workforce housing. These are people that like work at the hospital as medical assistants. These are people that manage downtown businesses. So it is that kind of level of income qualification to get in there. And Housing Works does incredible projects. Project complete by mid-21. Oh, wait, COVID, supply chain. Probably should update that. Hard to get electrical meters right now for construction. And that ended up delaying this project a number of months. Now they're looking to open in February. But they've already got their list of people that want the units, and there's a waiting list of 300 beyond that. So the demand, of course, you know, what you would expect. And adding downtown parking, you know, depends who you ask. Parking, one of my favorite things to always talk about. You know, do you have a parking problem? Yeah, some think yes, some think no. We want to create more of a parking problem. Sounds odd, but you want to make it so there is demand. It's like tables in a busy restaurant. You know, you want to be able to turn over those tables. So we're going to get to a point where we start to manage, because when you come down and you say, oh, I'm just going to leave my truck here and we're going to Hawaii for 2 weeks and I'm going to leave it in front of Diego's because, hey, there's no time limit. Why not? We're saying that we don't value that asset. So we do need to get in a place where we just have to start managing our downtown parking once we have a bit more of a problem. And so we study it every few years. And one of the current studies pointed us to, hey, you need to create some more off-street sites. And so we demoed the old city hall after doing a number of attempts to try to get it developed into housing, could not get the developers to make a pencil, and putting a new parking lot at the entrance of downtown at 4th Street and Evergreen across from Everhart's, and the old CarQuest juice bar right there at 4th. So there's now parking, 40 spots at the entrance to downtown as you come on Evergreen off of Highway 97. And then there's parking right behind 6th Street over 7th Street and Evergreen. So possibly more to come with that. So trying to address and be thoughtful of those types of projects. One of the ways that you see urban renewal in the most on the ground way are these programs that we have. And these are just a couple of our programs. So if you own a building, you say, hey, Chuck, we want to fix up our building. The facade looks awful. It's got an awning from 1964 that's torn up. We can come forward with a small projects grant of up to $5,000. You spend $10,000 on that awning. We reimburse you $5,000. So we're kind of coming as partners to help you beautify downtown. And you can look up and down 6th Street, 5th Street. Dozens of these facades have been done. We've done dozens upon dozens. And so that's one way that the program touches a lot of people, a lot of businesses and property owners. And to what amount? So just in 2020, 20 grants issued, $227,000 worth, leveraging $3.8 million. Projects like the bank building with the apartment units on the back. Those are going to be 5 market rate apartment units in the old annex. Used to be the Mexican restaurant. Whoever ate there? Anybody? And now it's going to be retail on the front and possibly coffee, bakery a little bit on the 6th Street side with housing behind. The middle picture is, I'm sorry, I keep on walking out of the owl there. I'm sorry about that, audience. The middle picture is the old City Center Church, the south parcel that is now the High Desert Music Hall, a beautiful venue with a lounge and vegetarian food options. And so it's just a couple of snapshots of projects that have happened this year. You've all seen Earth Art Gardens at the old gas station. That's a great conversion. That project worked out really well. Equine Wine in the bottom right is a wine bar that opened over on 4th Street. So lots of projects to see. Yes.
On the facades, grants and stuff, is there any kind of, I don't know, specifications to keep it consistent among the business owners there, or is it all more just individual, what I want for my building?
No, it is. And especially if you come forward and say, hey, I want to do a purple facade and I want to put lightning bolts coming out of it or something. I can't even think of what would be something that might not be, kind of consistent with the style that's downtown. We do have downtown design standards. We have a color palette of when people do painting projects, and we have a palette that they can choose from. Not everybody follows it. There are guidelines. We're not heavy-handed in Redmond with overregulation. We put out the guidelines. We do say best intentions, please work on meeting this. Pink can be good. We also do loan sources. So we are what I like to say, like the easy low maintenance girlfriend. We're down here in the subordinate position behind a first mortgage. We usually do very good interest rates. The idea being is that we want you to try to help mitigate the risk of your project. Josh is going to buy a building. He wants to rehabilitate it. It can't be leased because it doesn't have operable HVAC. Maybe the roof needs to be done. The electrical is from 1945. So property rehabilitation loan up to $100,000. Oh, Josh says, I've already got debt on this building. That's okay. We'll loan you the $100,000 for that construction work as a reimbursable loan. Boom, we give you the $100,000 after you've done the work, you pay it back, Wall Street Prime, 10 years. And then the community and the district get that improved asset. So our money, the taxpayer money's in the building. And if Josh opens up a kite store in that building, and that was his dream, and the kite store does not fly, sorry, that joke's just there, and somebody's got to use it. And it's not, I don't know how I fell into that. But his kite store doesn't fly. We feel really bad, Josh, and I hope you find another dream. However, we've got that taxpayer money in the building. It's now got new HVAC, and now he's going to come along with his Crocs store and sell a ton of Crocs. Good luck on that.
I want to open a tattoo parlor.
Oh yeah, well,
Have one of those.
yeah. Next question.
Getting all set
Well
with my
played.
purple awning. I recent resident here, come from Michigan. In Michigan, we had something called the Downtown Development Corporation.
Yes.
Which were allocated a certain proportion of liquor licenses.
Yes.
That could help them limit or not the number of restaurants that ended up in a given area.
Yes.
Do we have anything like that here and would it be helpful if we did?
I'm gonna almost let other people in the room speak to that, but that sounds like something that Oregon would not go for.
Would not go
is
for.
my gut.
A little bit heavy-handed.
A little heavy-handed, although Oregon does have a way to be heavy-handed in other areas that are kind of surprising.
I'm maybe wrong about this, but I'm going down the main street downtown, and it seems like there are a lot of restaurants.
Yes.
And every day there seems to be something new.
Yes, in fact, sometimes we often coin it the MCD, the Mexican Cuisine District. We think we might have more per capita than any town in the state, but I'm just claiming that throne right now.
Portland has a green mile. We could go for one of those.
Yeah. So yes. So the question effectively is, how much do you want to have an intervention that is really designed and guided?
Right.
Really, I think what our policymakers say to us as staff and what we hear from the community is let the free market decide that. If I have another person come to, well, it's going to happen probably today or tomorrow. Another person says, hey, I'm thinking about doing some food trucks. I'm like, okay, all right, well, there's a line over there. There's a lot of those coming. Do we dictate that? We certainly have some planning standards that make it so you have to, do a site plan, and that's a process. You have to be serious. You can't just pull up your truck. I know you just want to pull up your truck and make fish tacos right in front of the hotel, but it's not an approved space. So there's some process to be sure, to create some order and some guidance, but it is not as far as that kind of regulation, something that we do.
Well, there's a planning commission too, right?
And there's a planning commission too. Alan, I'm going to phone a friend on this one. As former mayor, do you have anything to kind of throw in about that ideology about way Oregon and Redmond looks at regulation? Put you on the spot.
I've been thinking, thanks, Chuck.
Redmond used to have the Redmond Development Commission. It was a group of business people who would help us develop things like the golf course. So public projects, that's as close as we've got to the person's idea about liquor money. We do get liquor money as sort of like a block amount to the city, and I think the city gets to use it the way they want. So it's just another way of investing. You know, do you want me to say something else, Chuck?
No, I did put you on the spot. I just wanted a gut check on my interpretation of the ideological approach to regulation in the city from your perspective.
Well, I think the city's doing great. Like you said, we're not heavy-handed, and we work with people who are not in compliance and try to help them be in compliance. And you know, so I think we're trying to realize people's dreams as well as have some uniformity in the city.
Great, thank you, Alan. I'm going to just kind of jump ahead here because in the interest of time, I know there's other speakers and you guys have been a really great audience. We have some of these other programs focusing on industrial opportunities. That is, you want to come here to Redmond and you want to bring 100 jobs and make your widgets here. We want to help you build that widget factory. So if you bring jobs that are going to be above the area median income, we'll give you an incentive for construction loan dollars that are forgivable for every job you bring. So say you're going to bring 50 jobs above the area median income, and we're going to give you $5,000 of credit per job. That's $250,000. Did I do the math right? Yes. $250,000 of construction loan. And then all you have to do is show that you're keeping those jobs in Redmond every year. And each year we forgive the loan over 5 years because the community gets the jobs. We get the building. You get your business. It's a really good shared program.
Sure.
Yes.
What's considered the median income?
You know, I should know that off the top of my head.
That's okay.
I think it's actually, I shouldn't even say it because it's changed recently and I haven't memorized it, but
it's okay.
And then they always splice it differently for like housing and, you know, family of 4. Is it individual? Is it just Redmond? Is it Bend? The state started doing a Redmond number now, which is really great. So we've been able to track that, but I don't have an updated one. So I apologize for that. Utilizing that tool of Urban Renewal, and I'm just wrapping up here. We, in the last year, working with ODOT, have a South Highway 97 corridor plan. And that's to work on addressing some of these safety, freight mobility, and economic vitality issues along the corridor. We all know when we come in, you know, from the south and we enter Redmond, you kind of get in and it's like, okay, what's the plan here? There's a lot of traffic and a lot of cutting across the lanes. It's actually one of the least safe stretches of road in ODOT's system. They know they've got a real issue here as far as safety because there's so many turn actions going. And so we created an urban renewal district using that same tool that we talked about earlier that just started up, and it's going to work to do some reconfiguration of that in partnership with ODOT, which they need to upgrade the road anyway. It would start to look conceptually like this. Where instead of you know, a suicide lane in the middle, you would get the option. You get, that's what we call them back east. Exactly right. You get the J turn option, and this is starting to become a popular engineering tool to utilize to stop these left turns, but then kind of organize them in a safer fashion and at a better speed. And we actually put in more stoplights with this corridor plan, but improve speeds and throughput as far as capacity because it's more efficient than the system is now. So I see wheels grinding and thoughts coming. I will state again, I'm not an engineer. I'm just the urban renewal guy. So
J-turn, am I right, is you go through the intersection and then you kind of do like a U-turn after you go through the
yeah, you do it on this one, you do an approach and then before the intersection,
oh, okay.
you do your J-turn.
Oh, okay.
What you just talked about was a U-turn.
No,
no, I've seen in Michigan where the turn is actually you go through the intersection and the J comes after, but it's the same concept.
That's because Michigan drivers are like the best in the world and they can handle anything.
They think highest insurance rates.
We have to have a little simpler here. So conceptually, raise median, encouraging those turn movements at safer locations, putting in some lighting, some landscaping, bike track, sidewalks, things that will soften and make the corridor more inviting, make it safer, increase freight mobility. And that is what we're going to be working on the next few years with ODOT. We took the opportunity to also work with the state Department of State Lands, and I'm sure the seeds were planted with you by you, Mayor Unger, and this many years ago. But all these lands south of where we are at Juniper right now is 1,000 acres of industrial zone land that we worked with the state on to annex into the city. So this is now in the city limits. It is the largest available vacant industrial land tract in the entire state. And that's by design. We worked politically to get to that situation so we could start to work with the Department of State Lands, who owns the dirt. Our urban renewal district is going to help bringing infrastructure here. So you want to bring your widget factory here and you want to put it on 250 acres, but oh no, you need a major gas line to go from where the service is down to here. We have urban renewal dollars to help make that infrastructure happen if you bring the jobs and the widget factory to Redmond. So working on this is just beginning now. We're actually already talking to master developers. We're talking to a couple of companies that have been interested in 50 and 250 acre spots. So we hope to really create a lot of activity there going forward. During COVID-19, and this is, I think, just about the end of my slides. Thank you for letting me go a little bit long. I appreciate it. I kind of self-appointed, saw an opportunity to get PPE from the state for free, and I just went ahead and made myself PPE officer, although I never got any business cards or anything like that. But try to figure out what we could do. It's really kind of the Redmond way. How can I help? How can we help our neighbors? How can we help our citizens? And so we distributed over, actually just me and maybe a couple other people, about over 400,000 units of PPE, including 100,000 bottles of hand sanitizer and masks and wipes and whatnot. And we still continue to do that. Also helping direct them to grants. A lot of businesses struggled, as you know, through COVID and still have. So making sure that we're keeping them safe, providing them funding to help move forward and fill in the holes. And so it's in a kind of another economic development piece that, although not in the job description and not on the card, but other duties as assigned, I suppose, right? And can't get the computer to go any further. It's probably going to go to some other PowerPoint, but I will take any other questions at this point. Yes, sir.
Maybe this is out of your jurisdiction, but what are you doing with the old golf course?
That is out of my jurisdiction. So, Alan, you're wishing you hadn't turned on the computer. Is that on airport land?
Yeah, it's airport land. And that's the reason it was the first golf course, because when it was built way back in the 50s, it was $1 a year to use the airport land. We moved it because the cost would go up, but I think we've had multiple plans over the years on how to use that property. It's leased land and people just would rather buy than lease. So that's kind of the complication with that property, but it's going to have a connecting road through it and it's going to have an opportunity sometime in the future.
Yeah. Any other questions?
On the solution for the bypass, it's not a bypass, but it's the reroute of the way traffic flows through Redmond. I mean, that doesn't, I mean, I'm that and I'm like, it looks beautiful, it looks like it's gonna be a lot safer, but traffic is still increasing in our area.
Yes.
It feels like we're gonna have to do something different in the long term. for like a bypass or something.
Yeah, so that's a big question, and that's on policymakers' minds right now, and they've been discussing that. I'm gonna asterisk this before I say it, since I'm city staff and I'm way out of my lane on this. So just, that's like when you say, "Oh, bless his heart," and then you can say anything after that. So policymakers are talking about it. Communities only get so many chances at the solid bar that is the Oregon Department of Transportation funding sources. And I think we all know that there are a lot of competing interests, not only in our region with Cooley Road for Bend and Terrebonne, and then you got the Columbia River Bridge, which makes a big sucking sound for 2 states of funding. That still doesn't seem to happen. The number just grows. I mean, so again, still in my parenthetical, bless his heart section here. Policymakers are interested in talking about a bypass. That's a big lift. You get outside the urban growth boundary. Now, how do you make that work with our land use system? You have to go around the airport. You don't have jurisdiction over those lands, so it's a very long-term fix. Where we're at right now is that South Highway 97 between Veterans and U Avenue, the exit here for the airport and the golf course, the road is failing, and something has to be done in this immediate term. So I hear where you're going. It's like you're going to do this, but then it's going to be outdated. We're trying to work with ODOT and our partners to make sure that we keep up on kind of the very urgent needs. And so this one hopefully looks to start in about 2025. That we'll start to see some of those projects. But yes, there is talk of a bypass, funding to be determined, ability and possibility about doing it to be determined, but could be something that could happen in the next decade, possibly longer.
Hey, Chuck, well, we just need to put it on the map. That's what we need to do, is get a corridor, put it on the map, and then work through the issues. We can pay for it later, but we need to get it on the map today. So everybody support Ed Fitch with his idea.
Thank you.
What about the federal infrastructure dollars? They just passed that $1.1 trillion.
Yeah, and we submitted, I was part of a team that submitted dozens of projects on behalf of the city, all sorts of infrastructure, wastewater and water capacity to make sure we're staying up with our growth needs. So yeah, we're on that.
Okay.
Well, thank you. There was a lot to digest, and I took a lot of time. I totally appreciate your attention and engagement. Yeah, appreciate it. And thank you, Mayor Unger.
Okay. Any final questions or anything before we part ways today? No. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining. Oh, John.
We just asked people who did $100 online to pay through the website.
Yes. Do you guys hear that? If you did Happy Dollars online, please go to our website and you can click the PayPal button and take care of it there. Thanks so much, guys.